wish in some regards that it was more accepted for men to be talking about masculinity. Again, not to say that it's not, but, Politico did a 7-part series on men, and there was 0 male writers for it. Probably the most famous masculinity-focused article over the last 6 months was Christine Ember, female. So many of the people that I've been speaking to about this, women. And I get the impression at the moment that guys would happily take anyone speaking about their problems. So, like a beggar on the street, like, give me the end of your sausage roll, or give me 2 pence, or give me whatever. Like, I'll take what you get. But I do wish that it was easier for men to have this conversation without having to prostrate themselves, right, on the, I must get started. I must say that by focusing on the problems of men, we're not ignoring the problems of women. And I'm aware that for a long time, men did have some privileges apart from the war and the disease and the only 40% of us reproducing. All of that, like these unnecessary caveats and the hurdles that guys need to jump over, especially in some regards, if you're a young dude that goes to the gym, right? You're just branded as some right-wing firebrand Andrew Tate, like fucking from Wish, because that is how the mainstream media has captured all of the conversations around men. And it's just, that bit sucks. But anyway, I was trying after the conversations that I'd had to work out why men struggling and is largely thankless task. Like, why is it that it's so hard to give men any attention, or to give them much attention in the mainstream media? And I think it's because of a zero-sum view of empathy. So there's an assumption that any attention paid toward men takes it away from women or some other minority group who is more deserving. Like, after all, haven't men had it good for long enough? Maybe they should just suck it up for a while. But empathy doesn't work in this way, right? Like, it's not a limited resource, and recognizing the plights of men does not ignore the plights of women. And ultimately, women end up suffering in any case, because it's this increasing cohort of apathetic, checked out, resentful men who contribute to the exact lack of eligible partners that women say that they're struggling with. So the women who post like mocking tweets saying, boo-hoo, poor patriarchy, sad, whilst also complaining, where are all of the good men at? It's just mating logic seppuku, right? Like, they're just, if one sex loses, both sexes lose. And I think the difference is, at least when it comes to women's problems, and they have many of them, I think that, 5 or 10 years' time, the actual big story is going to be male body image and female crisis of femininity. I think that it's going to pivot, whereas at the moment it's mostly, in terms of the way that people appear, women's body standards and body types, and men's mental health. I think that's going to flip based on the trends. Male body dysmorphia is set to overtake women's within the space of the next 2 decades. So everything's going to go upside down. But anyway, male blame, right? A common question, I think, is why don't men just do better, right? Surely they can just try harder in school and employment and in health. It's like, chop, chop, men, hurry up and stop being so useless. But no other group is told that when they suffer with poor performance or accolades in the real world, that they should just pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Like, we don't tell any other group that they should just talk about their problems. Instead, we spend billions in taxpayer-funded money and private charity to set up committees and departments and campaigns and funds to solve the problem. So if a woman has a problem, we ask, what can we do to fix society? And if a man has a problem, we ask, what can men do to fix themselves? And it's a blatant double standard. And anyone who is unwilling to admit the structural disadvantages faced by men are standing in the way of us solving the problems that are hurting men and the potential wives that they should be viable for. There was a study, I wish I'd read it earlier on, but Dr. John Barry, he was on the show maybe 6 months ago, Center for Male Psychology, the lead for the Center of Male Psychology. And he said, having a negative view of masculinity damages boys' and men's mental health. Brand new research assessing the views of over 4,000 men found that thinking masculinity is bad for your behavior is linked to having worse mental well-being. Around 85% of respondents thought that the term toxic masculinity is insulting and probably harmful to boys, although the direction of causation isn't definite, right? Do negative views about masculinity damage mental health, or does low mental health cause men to view masculinity negatively? It's clear that negative views of masculinity are linked to well-being to a significant degree. And on the other hand, having a positive view of masculinity is linked to better mental well-being. And it fits with other evidence that's overlooked in the media and everywhere, that masculinity can be beneficial to mental health. The news shouldn't really be any surprise to any average person on the street who actually recognize the value of masculinity, but much more people who are in academia and the media and the government probably don't. There's rare exceptions, but the majority of information about masculinity that we all get exposed to is unreasonably negative. So you can be forgiven for thinking that men are the oppressors of women rather than the protectors of women. And interestingly, the study found that better mental well-being was associated with believing masculinity makes men protective of women, and worse mental well-being was associated with believing masculinity makes men feel violent toward women. So one of the implications of the study is that if we want men to have good mental health, a useful strategy might be to help them appreciate the ways in which their masculinity can have a positive impact on their behavior and the people around them. So the message to schools and the media and the government from Dr. John Barry is there is more to be gained by being positive. So it's time to stop being so negative about men and masculinity.